Hey everybody, welcome to the October STEM project. For this project, we're going to be doing an experiment using apples. And I don't know about you, but my favorite fruit is apples in the fall. And there's so many different varieties and they're so delicious. And the thing that's very frustrating though is if you cut them up and you leave them, they turn brown and then they don't look very yummy to eat. So what we're going to look at is why that happens, or we're going to talk about why that happens, and we're going to look at different ways that maybe we can keep them from going brown like that after they've been cut. So what happens when you cut an apple is you open up the flesh on the inside, the part that's so delicious, to oxygen in the air that's around us. And when that happens, there's a chemical reaction which causes the apple to start browning. There's a substance in the apple that when it's exposed, that means when oxygen hits it, it starts to oxidize, meaning it starts to turn brown. And we're going to use apples because that's one of the fastest ways to show how oxidization works. It works on a lot of different things, including metals. So for example, and I have a picture of this at the back of your packet, the Statue of Liberty, which we all know as this beautiful green statue, when it was originally erected in New York Harbor, it was copper colored. It was shiny and it was that coppery, orangey color. And over time and exposure to air, it's turned green. And that's the color that we know it as today. So with apples, we can do that a lot more quickly. So what I need you to do is you need to get out a cutting board, get somebody to help you with a knife because you're going to need to cut the apple into slices. I can't do it ahead of time because why? It's going to turn brown and that will mess up our whole experiment. You got to get the labels from the back of your packet and cut those out before you start cutting any apples or any fruit. And we're going to start making the solutions. So go grab all of those items that are on the second sheet or third sheet of your packet and come back and join me. Hey everybody, so now we're going to start setting up for our experiment. So you have an apple and a lemon in your packet. You also have some small containers of salt and baking soda. And remember I asked you to get the labels out and cut them out. So we've got air, which will be our control. This is how we can tell or compare what our experimental liquids are doing versus what would normally happen. So you always have to, in any experiment, have a control. And that will be just a plain piece of apple exposed, not dipped in any liquids, that's just left out. We got our baking soda water, salt water, lemon water, vinegar, and milk. Whoops, let's see if you can get those all in there, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, you have to get the milk because obviously we can't put that in for you. So I brought it in this little container. So now we've got milk and I'm gonna put this here, not that we would mess that up, but I'm gonna put it there to keep track of it. Then we've got vinegar. Again, you need to provide vinegar, and it can be any kind of vinegar. What's important about vinegar is it's got acetic acid in it. That's what makes it so sharp. And let's see if that will be something that will help protect the apple from the oxygen, which will cause it to brown. Then I'm going to put water in these three cups. And you got to put enough so that it'll be able to cover the slice of apple that you make, because you want to cover all surfaces of the apple. Why? Again, we've already got our control, which is exposed to the air, so we want to cover it with everything. So cover it with all the liquid so it covers the whole surface that's been cut. This is the salt, so I'm going to put the salt in that water, and I'm going to make sure I label that salt water. okay? And I've got a spoon, and I'll mix that up a little bit. It may fall to the bottom. I may have to mix it again. That's okay. Now, we've also got a container of baking soda. I'm going to put baking soda in the water. And again, I'm going to label it just so that I don't mess it up. I'm going to use the other side of the spoon to stir that, just so that I don't contaminate it. And then we can get our knife out. I'm going to cut my lemon. Again, get an adult to help you with this. And I am going to squeeze the lemon into the water. So we've got a nice... Now, if you don't want to do this, you can use orange juice, because remember, oranges and lemons are both citrus, and they both have something that's called ascorbic acid, which is otherwise known as vitamin C, and that's going to be important for this experiment. So it doesn't matter if the peels get in it, or not the peels, the seeds get in it or not, because we're not going to eat it. So I'm going to put the lemon away, and now we've got all of everything ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to cut our apple. And I'm going to wipe off the knife, because the knife has the lemon on it. So we want to have a clean knife without the lemon juice on it, because that's going to mess up our experiment. So I'm going to cut the apple, and it doesn't matter if you leave that made a mess. If you leave the core in or not, but I'm going to cut slices that I can dip. So I need 1, which will be for the air, 2, which I'm going to put in the milk, 3, which I'm putting in the vinegar, 4, and I'm going to take the label off, which I'm putting in the salt water, 5, which I put in the baking soda water, and then I'm going to cut one other. Guess what you can do? You can eat the rest of it if you want to, and I'm going to put that one in the lemon water, okay? And what I'm going to make sure is that as I said before, submerge the whole thing. So I'm going to wipe off my knife. I'm going to wipe off my cutting board. You know what? Actually, what I think I'm going to do is flip the cutting board. Flip the cutting board over. It got stuck to the table. I don't know how. So I'm going to label everything using my labels again. So that's the air. Got a little bit messed up, but that's okay. So now we've got our milk, and I'm just going to make sure that it's completely covered. And then I'm going to grab it out, shake it off a little bit, because I don't want it dripping everywhere, but it's totally covered. I'm going to put the milk here. Okay, got air, milk. Now we got vinegar. So again, I'm going to wipe off my knife because I'm using this. Okay, make sure it's completely covered. Then you want to take that out. Make sure. So vinegar. Okay. Then we have salt water, and I use the spoon, part of the spoon, to do this. So let's just make sure it's completely covered with salt water. Okay. That's your salt water. So you take your label and put it under that one. Okay. Now, baking soda. Remember, we stirred that with the handle of the spoon. So let's just make sure that's all mixed up and covering the apple. Okay. Every single part of the apple. Now we're going to take that out. I'm going to leave the spoon in there. Put that here. You've got your baking soda water. Couldn't find a picture for baking soda. And now we have our lemon water, which I'm going to make sure we've covered it. See, you do the same thing on each one. And now I'm going to take that one out and put that on my cutting board and put my label under it. So Now we have all of our apple slices all ready to go. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna wait for an hour. So set a timer and wait for an hour, and we're gonna come back and take a look at what our results are after an hour, okay? So join me soon. Bye. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is an hour later, and we're going to observe all of our apple slices and see kind of what we can see. So, basically, in terms of turning brown, you can see there's a little bit of brown starting over here on the air control one. The milk one is still looking pretty good. This one's starting to get very brown, the one in vinegar. The lemon water is looking pretty good. It looks like it's a shadow from the way the cut goes, but you can see a little bit of brown there. Baking soda, again, a little bit of brown around the core, but it looks pretty good. And the salt water looks pretty good. Another observation that I'm going to make right now is you can see around the salt water, there's a little bit of extra water, and I'm pretty sure that I dried those off pretty well, so I'm not sure what that's about. But grab your worksheet and you can write down what it looks like. So I'm going to put in a little bit brown. The lemon juice looks, let's see, where's lemon water? That's also a little bit brown. The salt water looks no brown to me. Baking soda water is a little bit of brown. Vinegar, there's a lot more brown, so I'm going to put medium brown. And the milk also looks like there's no brown, okay? If you'd rather not write this, why don't you draw a picture of each apple slice, and you can use a brown crayon or even use your pencil and just sort of shade in the areas that look brown. So we are going to come back in 2 hours, which will mean that it will be a total of 3 hours that we've let these slices air. See you soon. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is hour 3 of our observations of the apples after we've cut them and dipped them in different solutions. So grab your worksheet and let's write things down. The control is still kind of brown on the edge, but it doesn't seem to have changed a whole lot. So I'm going to write down a little bit brown. The one with the lemon juice stayed sort of the same. It looks basically the same as the one in the air. The vinegar is getting really super brown, and I wonder what it feels like. Does it feel any different from these ones? No, it still feels just as hard, so this is very brown. I'm just going to write brown on that one. Salt water looks actually lighter than the air. So the salt water, I'm going to say, is not brown, no brown on it. Baking soda and water is getting a little bit brown around the edges there and right by the peel. So I'm going to say that one's a little bit brown. And then the milk, where did the milk go? It's right there. That one is also lighter than the air, so that is close to the salt water. So I'm going to say no brown on that one. So now set a timer for another 2 hours, which will make it a total of 5 hours, which will be our last observation. And I will see you back then. Hey everybody, we're back, and this is our last observation. So our apple slices have been out for 5 hours with the different solutions on them. And when you look at them, you see that everything has sort of stayed the same. The two ones that look the best are the ones that were in, or the three ones that look the best are the one that was in lemon, the one that's in milk, and the one that was in salt water. Baking soda water doesn't look so hot. the vinegar looks awful, and the air control is still slightly brown. So you can write it all down if you want to, but I think that the best option for keeping your apple slices from turning brown, if you've sliced them up and you've put them in your lunch and you want to be able to eat them, a couple hours after you've sliced them, would be either dipping them in salt water, but I think that would taste kind of bad because you'd have to rinse them before you ate them, or lemon water. But if you don't have lemon water, what is something else that's got ascorbic acid in it? That is vitamin C that you probably have in your refrigerator. I think orange juice, and that's what I used to do for my kids when I cut up apple slices and I wanted them to eat them. I would dip them in orange juice, put them in a little bag or a little container, and stick them in their lunch. So I hope you had fun doing this little experiment. And which ones are we going to eat? We can eat the lemon water ones. I think I'll still eat the air one. I am not touching the vinegar. That looks disgusting. The milk, it's been out for 5 hours. I don't think so. Baking soda, I think, will taste terrible, and I think salt will taste terrible. So take a look at your worksheets and tell me what you think about why the experiment turned out the way it did. But basically, when you want to keep something from turning brown or deteriorating when it's exposed to air, you want to try to cover it with either something that keeps the air away. So if you've got a vacuum sealing device, you could do that, or you could cook it, or you can dip it in something that helps prevent the air from getting to the fruit, in this case, the apple, which would be dipping it in orange juice. So hope you had fun, and I will see you next month with our next STEM experiment. Bye.